What if everything you believe is a lie? Pause for a moment and let that question sink in. What if the values you hold, the truths you defend, the life you've built, are all built on sand? Over 2,000 years ago, a man named Socrates walked the streets of Athens, asking questions that pierced the heart of human certainty. What is virtue? He'd ask a statesman. What is love? He'd prod a poet. Each question was a mirror, reflecting not answers, but ignorance. Socrates believed that to know you know nothing is a first step toward wisdom. Today, his questions haunt us still. Are you living authentically or merely following the crowd? Do you seek truth or cling to comfort? His voice reaches across time, whispering to you, the listener, to pause and examine your life. Are you brave enough to ask what Socrates asked? Are you ready to awaken the power within you, the power to question, to seek, to live boldly in pursuit of truth? This is Socratic Spark, where ancient wisdom meets modern success. If you love timeless lessons and powerful motivation, hit subscribe and let's grow together. Socrates is not just a name etched in history stone. He is a living challenge, a voice that refuses to fade. In the dusty streets of Athens, he walked barefoot, cloaked in humility, yet armed with questions sharp enough to cut through the illusions of his time. He was no king, no general, no priest, yet his words reshaped the world. Why does Socrates matter to you today in a world of smartphones and fleeting trends? Because his life was a rebellion against the unexamined life, a plea for truth in an age of deception. The unexamined life is not worth living, he declared, and those words are not a philosopher's idle musing. They are a battle cry. In a world that demands conformity, Socrates calls you to stand apart, to question the stories you've been told, to seek virtue over comfort. Socrates was misunderstood in his time, branded a troublemaker, a corrupter of youth. The Athenians saw his questions as threats, his dialogues as rebellion. Yet, history has crowned him a hero, the father of Western philosophy, whose influence ripples through Plato, Aristotle, and every thinker who dares to seek truth. His trial and death in 399 BC were not defeats but triumphs, a testament to his refusal to compromise. He faced death with a smile, choosing integrity over survival, proving that a life without truth is no life at all. Today, you face your own trials, the pressure to conform, the noise of false certainties, the fear of standing alone. Socrates' philosophy is not a dusty relic. It is a lantern in the dark, guiding you to clarity. By engaging with his ideas, you will learn to question boldly, live authentically, and find the courage to face your fears. This speech is not just about Socrates. It is about you. It is an invitation to awaken your inner power, to live as he did, with curiosity, courage, and an unrelenting love for truth. Let us walk with Socrates, step by step, and discover the wisdom that lies within. In the bustling agora of Athens, a young man boasts of his wisdom, his voice loud with certainty. Socrates approaches, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. What is courage? He asks, and the young man falters. With each question, Socrates peels back layers of arrogance, revealing not answers, but deeper questions. This was his gift, the courage to question, to challenge the untested truths that bind us. Socrates believed that questioning was not rebellion but liberation, a way to free the soul from the chains of assumption. He was Athens' gadfly, stinging the sluggish horse of society awake. Today, we are surrounded by voices telling us what to think, what to value, what to fear. Social media, news, even our loved ones shape our beliefs, often without our consent. Socrates' courage calls us to pause and ask, why do I believe this? What if I'm wrong? To question is to risk discomfort, to face the unknown, but it is also to claim your freedom. When Socrates questioned the powerful, he risked everything, yet he persisted. His life teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to seek truth despite it. Consider a moment in your life when you accepted something without question, a belief, a rule, a path. What might have changed if you had asked, why? Socrates' method was simple. Ask, listen, probe deeper. Try it today. Question a habit, a fear, a societal norm. The answers may surprise you, but the act of questioning will awaken your inner power. As Socrates showed, to question is to live. Transition. But what happens when questioning reveals not answers, but the vastness of our ignorance? Socrates embraced this, finding wisdom in the unknown. Let us explore how ignorance itself became his greatest strength. I know that I know nothing, Socrates declared, a statement that stunned his listeners. In a world where wisdom was measured by answers, Socrates dared to find it in ignorance. Picture him in the marketplace, surrounded by scholars claiming mastery over truth. With a single question, he unraveled their certainties, exposing their knowledge as fragile. Yet, he never claimed superiority. His wisdom lay in humility, in admitting the limits of human understanding. This was not weakness, it was power. Today, we live in an age of information overload, where answers are a click away. Yet, how often do we mistake information for wisdom? Socrates challenges us to pause, to admit what we don't know. This is not defeat but a beginning. When he debated the sophists who sold polished answers of profit, Socrates showed that true wisdom starts with humility. To know you know nothing is to open the door to learning, to growth, to truth. Try this. The next time you feel certain, pause and ask, what don't I know? In your relationships, your work, your beliefs, embrace the Socratic humility. It's not about tearing yourself down, but building yourself up through honest inquiry. Socrates' ignorance was his lantern, illuminating the path to deeper understanding. By embracing our own, we awaken the power to learn without limits. Transition. Socrates' questions led him to truth, but truth often comes at a cost. Let us turn to his trial, where his pursuit of truth faced its ultimate test. In 399 BC, Socrates stood before a jury of 501 Athenians, accused of corrupting the youth and defying the gods. The courtroom buzzed with tension, but Socrates was calm, his voice steady. I will not change my ways, he said, even if I must die many times. His trial was not just about him, it was about truth itself. Athens, a city priding itself on democracy, feared a man whose questions exposed its flaws. They offered him exile, but Socrates chose death over compromise. This moment reveals the cost of truth. Socrates could have flattered the jury, renounced his teachings, and lived. Instead, he stood firm, proving that truth is worth more than life. His trial echoes in our world, where speaking truth can mean risking reputation, relationships, or safety. Whether it's challenging corruption, questioning societal norms, or standing up for justice, truth demands courage. Reflect on a time you face a choice, to speak truth or stay silent. What did you choose? Socrates' trial teaches us that truth is not just a concept but a way of life. To live truthfully is to align your actions with your values, no matter the consequences. In doing so, you awaken a power that no one can take away. Transition. Socrates' trial was a condemnation of the unexamined life. Let us explore what he meant by this, and why it remains his most enduring. Challenge. The unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates said during his trial, a line that has echoed through centuries. Picture him in his cell, hours from drinking hemlock, reflecting not on death, but on life. For Socrates, to live unexamined was to drift through existence, unaware of your purpose, your values, your truth. He saw people chasing wealth, status, and pleasure, blind to the deeper questions. Why am I here? What is good? What is just? In our modern world, the unexamined life is everywhere. We scroll through feeds, follow trends, and chase gold without pausing to ask why. Socrates' challenge is urgent. Stop and examine. What drives you? Are your choices yours, or society's? His dialogues with Athens' youth were not lectures, but invitations to think, to dig deeper, to live intentionally. Start small. Take 10 minutes a day to reflect. Write down what matters most to you. Question one choice you've made this week. Socrates' method is not about finding all the answers, but about living the questions. By examining your life, you awaken a power that gives every moment meaning. Transition. But what guides this examined life? For Socrates, the answer was clear. Virtue. Let us explore how he saw virtue as the soul's compass. Socrates believed that virtue was the highest good, the compass that guides the soul. In his dialogues, he pressed his listeners to define virtue not as a rule, but as a way of being. Is virtue knowledge? He asked, probing whether goodness comes from understanding. For Socrates, a virtuous life was not about following laws, but about aligning your soul with truth, justice, and courage. He lived this belief, choosing death over betraying his principles. Today, virtue feels like an old-fashioned word, drowned out by ambition and convenience. Yet, Socrates' call to virtue is timeless. Consider a moment when you face a moral choice, to lie or be honest, to help or turn away. Virtue is a quiet voice urging you toward the good, even when it's hard. Socrates' life shows us that virtue is not abstract, it's practical, lived in every choice, every action. To live virtuously, ask, does this align with my deepest values? In your work, your relationships, your choices, let virtue be your guide. Socrates' compass still points true, awakening a power that makes you unshakable no matter the storm. Transition. Socrates' life was a dialogue, a conversation that continues today. Let us explore his legacy and how it lives on in us. You're watching Socratic Spark. If his philosophy sparks something in you, subscribe now and keep the flame of knowledge alive. Socrates never wrote a book, yet his voice echoes through history. Through Plato's writings, we hear him questioning, teaching, inspiring. His method, the Socratic dialogue, was a dance of questions designed not to win argument but to uncover truth. In the Agora, he engaged everyone, statesmen, poets, artisans, youth. Each dialogue was a spark, igniting curiosity and self-discovery. His influence shaped Plato, Aristotle, and thinkers across centuries, from Augustine to Nietzsche. Today, the Socratic dialogue lives in every honest conversation, every moment you challenge a friend's assumptions or question your own. It's in the classroom, the boardroom, the quiet moments of reflection. Socrates' legacy is not in stone but in the act of questioning. He taught us that truth is not a destination but a journey, one we walk together. Try this. Start a Socratic dialogue with someone. Ask a big question. What is happiness? What is success? And listen deeply. The power of dialogue lies in its ability to connect us, to awaken shared wisdom. Socrates' legacy is yours to carry forward. Transition. As we conclude, let us return to Socrates' final moments, where his life and wisdom converge in a timeless call to action. Have you ever stood before a mirror, not to see your face, but to glimpse the truth of who you are? In the sun-drenched streets of Athens, Socrates posed his challenge not to the mighty, but to the ordinary, a cobbler crafting sandals, a soldier polishing his shield, a young dreamer named Alcibiades, whose ambition burned brighter than the midday sun. Know thyself, he urged, echoing the ancient maxim carved into the temple of Apollo at Delphi. It was no abstract command. It was a call to battle, a summons to unearth the hidden motives, fears, and desires that shape our lives. Picture Socrates in a shaded grove, his eyes locked on Alcibiades, Athens' golden sun, whose charm masked a restless soul. What do you seek? Socrates asked, his voice a gentle blade. Alcibiades spoke of glory, power, fame, conquest. But who are you beneath these desires? Socrates pressed, and the young man's confidence wavered, his words dissolving into silence. In that moment, Socrates planted a seed of self-discovery, a seed that would grow into wisdom or haunt Alcibiades for life. Self-knowledge was Socrates' cornerstone, the foundation of a life worth living. He believed that to live without understanding your own heart was to wander blindly, a ship without a rudder, tossed by the waves of others' expectations. In Plato's Alcibiades' eye, Socrates challenges a young man. If you do not know yourself, how can you know what is good for you? This was no mere debate. It was a lifeline. Socrates saw self-knowledge as a spark that ignites authenticity, the key to unlocking a life aligned with truth. He wandered Athens' Agora, questioning artisans and statesmen, not to shame them but to awaken them. Why do you act as you do? He'd ask, his words a mirror held before their souls. Some turned away, angered by the reflection. Others leaned closer, hungry for clarity. Today, we are surrounded by mirrors, yet we rarely look deeply. Social media reflects curated selves. Society dictates who we should be, and our own fears distort the view. Socrates' call to know thyself is a rebellion against this noise. In a world that demands you define yourself by likes, followers, or titles, he asks, who are you when the world is silent? Self-knowledge is not a destination but a journey, a daily practice of peeling back layers of assumption. Socrates' method was simple yet profound. Question your motives, your choices, your beliefs. In Plato's Phaedo, he reflects on the soul's immortality, urging his friends to examine their lives before it's too late. The greatest good for a man, he says, is to discuss virtue every day. This is the power of self-knowledge. It anchors you, giving you the strength to stand firm amid life's storms. Consider a moment in your life, a choice you made without thinking, a path you followed because it was expected. Why did you choose it? Was it fear? Habit? The need for approval? Socrates' life teaches us that self-knowledge begins with such questions. In his dialogues, he never claimed to have all the answers. Instead, he offered a process. Take a decision you face today, perhaps a career move, a relationship, or a personal goal. Ask, why do I want this? Does it align with who I am? This is not about finding certainty, but about uncovering truth. Socrates' encounter with Alcibiades shows us the cost of ignoring this call. Alcibiades, despite his brilliance, fell to ruin, chasing power without understanding his own soul. This practice is not easy. Self-knowledge demands courage, for it forces you to face uncomfortable truths, your flaws, your fears, your contradictions. Socrates faced these in himself, admitting in Plato's Apology, "I am wiser because I know that I know nothing." His humility was his strength, a lantern illuminating the shadows of his soul. Today, we shy away from such honesty, fearing judgment or failure. Yet, Socrates' life shows us that to know yourself is to claim your power. It's the power to say no to what doesn't serve you, to choose paths that resonate with your deepest values, to live authentically in a world that demands conformity. Try this. Carve out 10 minutes a day to sit in silence. Write down one question. What drives me? Let the answers flow, unfiltered. Perhaps it's love, fear, ambition, or duty. Don't judge, just observe. This is a Socratic mirror, reflecting not just who you are, but who you could become. In our age of distraction, where algorithms shape our desires and trends dictate our dreams, self-knowledge is a radical act. It's a refusal to be defined by others, a declaration that your life is yours to shape. Socrates' life was a testament to this power. He faced Athens' jury, accused of corrupting the youth, yet he stood firm, his self-knowledge unshaken. "I will not change my ways," he said, choosing truth over survival. His clarity came from years of questioning, of knowing his own heart. You, too, can find this clarity. In your relationships, ask, am I being true to myself? In your work, ask, does this reflect my values? Each question is a step toward freedom, a spark that awakens your inner power. But self-knowledge is not a solitary pursuit. It shapes how we stand in the world. Socrates' questions made him an outsider, a man who refused to bow to Athens' expectations. His self-knowledge gave him the courage to defy the crowd, to live by his own truth. This defiance was not arrogance, but a commitment to authenticity, a lesson we need now more than ever. Transition. Self-knowledge empowers us to stand alone, but Socrates also defied the crowd. Let us explore his courage to resist conformity and live by his own truth. Have you ever felt the weight of 1,000 eyes urging you to stay silent, to blend in, to betray your truth? In the heart of Athens, Socrates stood as a lone figure against a city that demanded his conformity. The year was 399 BC, and the agora buzzed with tension as he faced a crowd of statesmen, poets, and citizens, their voices thick with accusations. "You corrupt our youth," they cried. "You mock our gods." Yet Socrates, in his worn cloak and Bayford resolve, met their gaze unflinchingly. "A good man cannot be harmed," he declared in Plato's Apology, his word a defiance of the crowd's power. Picture him in the marketplace, surrounded by a throng both curious and hostile. A young poet boasts of his wisdom. Socrates asks, "What is beauty?" A statesman claims justice. Socrates probes, "How do you know?" Each question was a spark, igniting discomfort but also awakening those brave enough to listen. Socrates was Athens' gadfly, stinging the sluggish horse of society awake, as he described himself in Apology. But the crowd does not love its gadfly. They mocked him, feared him, and ultimately condemned him to death. Yet he never wavered. His defiance was not born of arrogance but of a deep commitment to truth. He knew that the crowd's approval is a fleeting illusion, a trap that lures us from our principles. In Plato's Crito, his friend urges him to escape prison, to bow to the crowd's verdict and live. Socrates refuses. We must not care what the many say of us, but what the one who knows about justice says. To defy the crowd was to choose integrity over popularity, truth over comfort. Today, the crowd surrounds us in new forms: social media, cultural norms, the pressure to fit in. Every like, every trend, every expectation whispers, conform. Yet, Socrates' life is a clarion call to resist. In our world, where algorithms amplify the loudest voices and conformity tempts us to silence our doubts, his defiance is a beacon. Consider a moment when you felt the crowd's weight, perhaps a workplace where speaking up risked your status, or a social circle that demanded you agree. What did you do? Socrates' life shows us that defying the crowd is not about rebellion for its own sake, but about standing for what's true, even when it leaves you alone. Try this. Today, challenge one norm. It could be as small as questioning a colleague's assumption, or as bold as speaking out against an injustice. Ask, is this true, when everyone else nods along? Socrates' defiance was practical, lived in every question he asked. In Plato's Gorgias, he challenges the sophist Gorgias, a master of rhetoric, to define virtue. The crowd cheers Gorgias' eloquence, but Socrates dismantles his empty words, exposing their lack of substance. This is a power of defiance. It cuts through noise, revealing truth. But defiance is costly. Socrates faced mockery, exile, and death. Yet, he believed that true harm lies not in external punishment, but in betraying your soul. No evil can happen to a good man, he said, meaning that integrity is its own shield. Today, defying the crowd might mean losing friends, opportunities, or approval. Yet, it also means gaining something greater, yourself. Reflect on a time you conformed to avoid conflict. What did it cost you? Socrates' life urges you to choose differently, to stand firm like a lone tree in a storm, its roots deep in truth. This defiance is not about isolation, but about authenticity. Socrates' questions drew people to him, disciples like Plato, friends like Crito, who saw his defiance as a light. In our world, where polarization divides and conformity unites, Socrates' courage invites us to build bridges through truth, not agreement. His life shows us that defying the crowd is not about being contrary, but about being true to yourself, to your values, to the world you want to create. Transition. Defiance serves a purpose, the good life. Let us explore Socrates' vision of a life worth living, where truth and virtue reign. What makes a life worth living? In a shaded grove outside Athens, Socrates sat with friends like Crito and Phaedo, his voice weaving through the evening air. "We are discussing no small matter," he said in Plato's Republic, "but how we ought to live." For Socrates, the good life was not a checklist of wealth, fame, or pleasure. It was a pursuit of virtue, a daily commitment to aligning the soul with what is just, true, and good. Picture him challenging a wealthy merchant in the Agora. "Does your gold make you just?" The man's silence spoke louder than words. Socrates believed that true happiness flows not from what we have, but from how we live. His dialogues were not lectures, but invitations to examine what matters most. In our world, the good life is sold as a product: success, status, possessions. Billboards promise happiness in a new car. Influencers tout fulfillment in followers. Yet, how many chase these only to feel empty? Socrates' philosophy cuts through this illusion. In Plato's Symposium, he debates love and desire, arguing that the good life seeks not fleeting pleasures but lasting goodness. "The only thing I claim to know," he says, "is that virtue is the only good." This was his compass, guiding every choice, from his barefoot walks to his final stand in court. Today, Socrates' pursuit of the good life is a challenge to redefine happiness. It's not about what you gain, but who you become. Consider your own life. What do you chase? Money? Approval? Security? Socrates asks you to pause and reflect. Does this make me better? His dialogue shows that the good life is built on small, intentional acts, speaking truthfully, helping without reward, choosing courage over comfort. In Meno, he explores whether virtue can be taught, concluding that it's a practice, honed through reflection and action. Try this. Today, make one choice with intention. Help someone without expecting thanks. Speak truth, even if it's hard. Socrates' life shows us that the good life is not a prize but a process. In our age of instant gratification, where we're tempted to measure worth by external markers, his wisdom is a lifeline. Reflect on a goal you're pursuing. Does it align with your deepest values? If not, what would? Socrates' pursuit was not about perfection but progress, a daily step toward virtue. This pursuit requires discipline, as Socrates showed in his unwavering commitment. Even facing death, he chose a good life over escape, telling Crito, "We must do what is right, not what is easy." His example urges us to ask, what is my good life? Is it a life of integrity, of kindness, of truth? Like a river carving a canyon, small acts of goodness shape a life of meaning. Transition. A good life requires focus, which Socrates found in simplicity. Let us explore his strength in living simply, free from distraction. In a world that craves more, have you ever longed for less? Socrates walked Athens streets barefoot, his single cloak threadbare, his possessions few. Yet his presence was a force, his mind a universe. In the marketplace, surrounded by stalls overflowing with goods, he remarked, "How many things I can do without," as recorded by Diogenes Laertius. This was not poverty but power, a deliberate choice to strip away excess and focus on what matters: truth, virtue, the soul. While others chase wealth and status, Socrates sought wisdom, proving that simplicity is not lack but liberation. Socrates' simplicity was a shield against distraction. In Plato's Phaedo, he speaks of the soul's need for clarity, unclouded by material desires. His life was a testament to this. No grand house, no lavish feast, yet his ideas reshaped the world. He dined modestly, spoke plainly, and lived without pretense, yet kings and scholars sought his words. Simplicity gave him freedom to think deeply, to question boldly, to live authentically. In our world, where consumerism tempts us to equate worth with possessions, Socrates' life is a radical call to rethink what we need. Today, simplicity feels countercultural. We're bombarded by ads, notifications, and the pressure to accumulate more stuff, more likes, more status. Yet, Socrates asked, what do you truly need? His life shows that by letting go of excess, we make space for what's essential. In Apology, he defends his modest life, saying, "I go about doing nothing but persuading you to care for your soul." This is the strength of simplicity. It clears the clutter, letting us focus on our purpose. Try this. Declutter one part of your life today. Clear a desk, mute a notification, or release a grudge. Ask, does this serve my soul? Socrates' simplicity was practical, a daily choice to prioritize wisdom over want. In our age, where distraction is constant, his example is a lifeline. Reflect on what weighs you down: possessions, obligations, or expectations. What can you let go? Simplicity is not about deprivation, but about power, the power to live lightly, to move freely toward what matters. Socrates' life shows us that simplicity is strength. Facing his trial, he needed no riches to stand tall. His clarity was enough. Like a clear sky after a storm, simplicity reveals the stars of your purpose, guiding you to a life of meaning. Transition. Simplicity fostered connection, which Socrates built through dialogue. Let us explore the bonds he forged through shared inquiry. Have you ever felt truly heard, as if your words were a bridge connecting your soul to another's? In the torchlit glow of an Athenian symposium, Socrates sat among friends, poets, and philosophers, the air thick with wine and ideas. As recorded in Plato's Symposium, he posed a question that silenced the room. What is love? His voice was not commanding but inviting, his eyes searching each face for truth. The answers came: passion, desire, beauty, but Socrates listened deeply, then asked again, what does it save? With each question, he wove a tapestry of connection, turning strangers into companions, rivals into allies. For Socrates, dialogue was not a battle to win but a shared journey toward truth, a dance of minds that left everyone richer. His conversations were a gift, a space where souls could meet and grow. Socrates' dialogues, as captured by Plato, were acts of creation. In the bustling agora or quiet groves, he engaged everyone, artisans, youths, statesmen, with the same respect. In Theaetetus, he compares himself to a midwife, helping others give birth to their own understanding. I cannot produce wisdom, he says, but I can help you find it within. This was his genius, not lecturing, but listening, not answering, but questioning. He believed that truth emerges not from solitary thought but from shared inquiry. Picture him with a young student, perhaps Theaetetus, probing, "What is knowledge?" The boy's hesitant answers grew sharper with each question, not because Socrates gave him truth, but because he helped him uncover it. Dialogue was Socrates' bridge, connecting hearts across differences, building bonds stronger than stone. Today, we live in a world of noise, texts, tweets, and fleeting exchanges that pass for conversation. Yet, how often do we truly connect? Our words are rushed, interrupted by screens or agendas, leaving us isolated even in crowds. Socrates' dialogues offer a remedy. In Symposium, his conversation about love draws out Aristophanes' myth of split souls and Agathon's poetry, each voice adding to a shared truth. His method teaches us that dialogue is not about winning but about understanding. To listen deeply, to ask with curiosity, is to honor another soul. In our polarized age, where argument divide and echo chambers deafen, Socrates' approach is revolutionary. It invites us to build bridges, not walls. Try this. Today, have one real conversation. Ask a friend, colleague, or stranger what matters most to you, and listen without interrupting. Let their answer spark a question, then another, as Socrates did. Notice how the exchange deepens, how it reveals not just their truth but your own. In Phaedo, Socrates' final dialogue with his friends, even as death loomed, was a gift of connection, a reminder that shared inquiry outlives the body. This is the power of dialogue. It transforms fleeting moments into lasting bonds. Reflect on a time you felt unheard. What would have changed if someone had asked, "Why do you feel this way?" and truly listened? Socrates' dialogues were not always gentle. He challenged sophists like Gorgias, exposing their empty rhetoric. Yet even then, his goal was truth, not victory. His questions were a mirror, reflecting both the speaker's heart and his own. In our world, where debates often seek to dominate, Socrates' method is a call to humility. Ask not to prove a point, but to understand. In your workplace, family, or community, try the Socratic approach. Ask, "What do you mean?" or "Why do you believe this?" and watch how it shifts the dynamic from conflict to connection. Like threads woven into a tapestry, these moments create a life rich with meaning. But dialogue demands more than words. It requires presence. Socrates gave his full attention, his questions rooted in genuine curiosity. In Meno, he patiently guides a slave boy to geometric truth, not by teaching but by asking. This patience, this willingness to linger in the unknown, is what made his dialogues transformative. Today, we rush through conversations, eager for closure. Socrates asks us to slow down, to savor the journey. His bonds endured because they were built on truth, not convenience. This practice is not easy. Dialogue requires vulnerability, the courage to listen without judgment, to ask without agenda. Yet, Socrates' life shows us its worth. His disciples, Plato, Xenophon, and others, carried his voice forward, not because he preached, but because he connected. In our fragmented world, where loneliness is an epidemic, his dialogues are a lifeline. They remind us that we are not alone when we seek truth together. Transition. Dialogue thrives on patience, a virtue Socrates mastered. Let us explore how his patience shaped his wisdom and his life. In a world that demands instant answers, have you ever felt the power of waiting, of letting truth unfold in its own time? Socrates stood in Athens' sunlit courtyards, his questions unhurried, his presence calm. In Plato's Meno, he engages a young man in a dialogue about virtue, pausing as Meno stumbles. "Take time," Socrates says, "for there is no hurry." His patience was not passivity but a deliberate choice, a recognition that wisdom grows slowly, like a tree taking root in rocky soil. Picture him with a student, perhaps a boy puzzled by geometry. As in Meno, Socrates asks, waits, asks again, letting silence reveal what words cannot. His patience was a gift, allowing truth to emerge not through force but through time. Socrates' patience was his strength. In a city obsessed with quick solutions and grand oratory, he chose the slow path of inquiry. He believed that truth cannot be rushed, that understanding requires space to breathe. In Phaedo, as he faces death, he speaks calmly of the soul's journey, comforting his weeping friends. His patience in that final hour was not resignation but wisdom, a trust that truth endures beyond the moment. He knew that the best things, knowledge, virtue, purpose, required time to ripen. His dialogues were marathons, not sprints, each question a step toward clarity. Today, we live in an age of instant gratification. A question typed into a search bar yields answers in seconds, but does it yield wisdom? Socrates' patience challenges us to slow down, to resist the urge for quick fixes. In Theaetetus, he explores knowledge with a young student, letting the conversation wander, trusting that truth will emerge. This is a patience of wisdom, not demanding answers but cultivating questions. In our world, where notifications demand attention and decisions feel urgent, Socrates' approach is a rebellion. It asks us to pause, to reflect, to wait. Try this. Today, face a question or conflict and pause before responding. Ask, what's true here? And give yourself time to think. In your work, relationships, or personal goals, practice the Socratic patience. Reflect on a time you rushed a decision, perhaps a purchase, an argument, or a career move. What might have changed with patience? Socrates' life shows us that waiting is not weakness but power. His trial, as recorded in Apology, was a testament to this. Facing death, he spoke deliberately, refusing to beg or rush. "I will not change my ways," he said, his patience rooted in conviction. This patience is practical. In Meno, Socrates guides a slave boy to solve a geometric puzzle, not by teaching but by asking, step by step. The boy's understanding unfolds slowly, a reminder that wisdom is a garden, not a machine. Today, we're tempted to force outcomes, cramming for exams, rushing relationships, chasing success. Socrates asks us to cultivate instead. In your life, where can you slow down? Perhaps it's listening to a friend without interrupting, or reflecting on a goal before acting. Patience gives clarity, letting you see what haste obscures. But patience is not easy. It requires trust in yourself, in the process, in truth. Socrates faced mockery for his slow, probing style, yet he persisted. His patience was a lantern, illuminating truths hidden in the rush of life. In our world, where impatience fuels conflict and burnout, his example is a lifeline. Try this. Dedicate 1 hour this week to quiet reflection. Ask, what do I seek? And let the answers unfold without forcing them. Like a river smoothing stones, patience shapes a life of depth. Transition. Patience overcomes fear, which Socrates faced with courage. Let us explore his fearless heart and how it sustained his wisdom. What would you do if fear no longer held you back? In a dim Athenian cell, Socrates lifted a cup of hemlock to his lips, his hand steady, his heart unshaken. As recorded in Plato's Phaedo, he faced death with a smile, comforting his weeping friends. "I am not afraid," he said, "for I have lived justly." Accused of corrupting Athens' youth and defying its gods, he stood before a jury of 501, his voice calm but unyielding. "I will obey the god rather than you," he declared in Apology, choosing truth over survival. His fearless heart was not bravado but conviction, a belief that a life lived in truth is stronger than death itself. Socrates' fearlessness was forged in the Agora, where he questioned the powerful, knowing it could cost him everything. Picture him challenging a sophist like Thrasymachus in Republic, who argues that might makes right. What is justice? Socrates asks, undaunted by the man's bluster. His questions were a defiance of fear, a refusal to bow to threats or popularity. He believed, as he says in Apology, no evil can happen to a good man, either in life or after death. This was his shield, the certainty that integrity outweighs any external harm. Today, fear binds us, fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. In our world, where speaking out can risk jobs, relationships, or reputations, Socrates' fearless heart is a beacon. Reflect on a moment you stayed silent, afraid to act. Perhaps you avoided a truth, a risk, or a stand. What held you back? Socrates' life shows that fearlessness is not the absence of fear but the choice to act despite it. In Crito, his friend urges him to escape prison, to flee death. Socrates refuses. To live unjustly is worse than to die. His fearlessness was rooted in principle, a reminder that true harm lies in betraying your soul. Try this. Today, face one fear. Speak up in a meeting, confront a doubt, or take a small risk. Ask, what would I do if I were fearless? Socrates' example shows that courage is a practice built through small acts. In Phaedo, as he drinks the hemlock, he jokes with his friends, easing their sorrow. This lightness was not denial but strength, a heart so grounded in truth that death could not shake it. In our lives, where fear often whispers, "Stay safe," Socrates urges us to whisper back, "Stay true." This fearlessness is practical. In your career, relationships, or personal growth, identify one fear holding you back. Perhaps it's fear of failure in a new venture or fear of judgment in speaking your truth. Socrates' life teaches us that courage is a flame, burning steady in the wind. His questions angered Athens, yet he persisted, knowing that truth is worth the cost. Today, we face our own trials, social pressures, personal doubts, global uncertainties. Socrates' fearless heart invites us to stand tall, to act with integrity, to live without regret. But fearlessness requires clarity, which Socrates found through self-knowledge and patience. His courage was not reckless but rooted, a product of a life examined. Try this. Write down one fear and ask, why does this scare me? Let the answer guide you to action. Like a warrior facing battle, Socrates' fearless heart was his armor, forged in truth. Transition. Socrates' fearlessness was rooted in purpose, a commitment to live meaningfully. Let us explore how his purpose gave his life enduring power. What gives your life meaning when the world feels chaotic? Socrates walked Athens streets with a singular purpose, to seek truth and awaken others to it. In Plato's Apology, he tells the jury, "I go about doing nothing but persuading you to care for your soul." His purpose was not fame or wealth, but the pursuit of virtue, a mission that guided every question, every dialogue, every choice. Picture him in the Agora, engaging a young student like Charmides. "What is temperance?" he asks, not to teach but to spark a fire of purpose in the boy's heart. Socrates believed that a life without purpose is a shadow, drifting without direction. His purpose shone brightest in his trial. Facing death, he refused to renounce his mission. "I will not change my ways," he said, choosing integrity over escape. In Crito, he explains to his friend why he stays. "The most important thing is not life, but the good life." This was his North Star, a commitment to live justly, no matter the cost. Socrates' purpose was not vague. It was practical, lived in every conversation, every challenge to Athens' complacency. Today, we chase goals, careers, wealth, recognition, yet often feel unmoored. Socrates' purpose-driven life asks us to redefine meaning. What is your mission? Is it to create, to connect, to seek truth? In our world, where distractions abound and success is measured in metrics, his example is a lifeline. Reflect on a time you felt fulfilled, not by achievement, but by purpose. Perhaps it was helping someone, creating something, or standing for what's right. Socrates' life shows that purpose is not found in grand gestures, but in daily choices aligned with your values. Try this. Identify one purpose-driven goal for this week. It could be as simple as listening to a friend, or as bold as starting a project that matters to you. Ask, does this reflect my deepest values? In Republic, Socrates explores justice as a harmony of the soul, a purpose that aligns our actions with goodness. This harmony is within your reach. In your work, relationships, or personal growth, let purpose guide you. If you're unsure of your purpose, start with Socrates' method. Question. Ask, what do I care about most? And let the answers unfold. This pursuit is not easy. Purpose requires sacrifice, as Socrates showed by choosing death over compromise. In our world, where convenience tempts us to drift, his life is a call to clarity. Like a star guiding a sailor through darkness, purpose gives direction. Try this. Write down one thing you'd do if you had no limits. How can you take one step toward it today? Socrates' purpose was his power, a force that outlived him, shaping philosophy through Plato and beyond. Transition. Purpose endures beyond one life, as Socrates' legacy proves. Let us explore how his ideas continue to awaken minds across centuries. What will you leave behind when your voice fades? Socrates never wrote a word. yet his ideas echo through millennia, a spark that ignites minds across time. In the final moments of his life, as recorded in Plato's Phaedo, he sat with his disciples, the hemlock chill creeping through his veins. "We owe a cock to Asclepius," he said, his last words a cryptic nod to healing, as if his death freed him from life's disease. His legacy was not in stone or gold, but in questions, in the minds he awakened. Through Plato's dialogues, Aristotle's ethics, and centuries of thinkers from Augustine to Nietzsche, Socrates' voice lives on, challenging us to seek truth, to live examined lives. Picture Athens after his death in 399 BC. The city that condemned him could not silence him. His disciples carried his method, questioning, probing, seeking, into the world. In Apology, he predicted this: "I am not the only one who will not be silenced." His legacy is not a monument, but a movement, a call to every soul to question, to reflect, to live boldly. In the Agora, he was a gadfly. In history, he is a flame burning through the ages. His influence shaped Western philosophy, from Plato's academy to modern classrooms, where his method still sparks debate. Today, Socrates' legacy is yours to claim. In a world of shallow answers and fleeting trends, his questions are a lifeline. Every time you ask, "Why?" or "What is true?" you carry his torch. His life shows that legacy is not about fame but impact. In Symposium, his dialogue on love inspired poets and thinkers. In Menno, his questions taught a slave boy to think. These moments ripple forward, reminding us that small acts of inquiry can change the world. Try this. Ask one Socratic question daily. What is happiness? What is success? Let these questions guide your choices, from work to relationships. Socrates' legacy is practical. Live in every moment you choose truth over comfort. Reflect on a time you inspired someone, a conversation, a kind act, a bold stand. That's your legacy, a spark like Socrates. In our world, when noise drowns out meaning, his method is a call to clarity. Like a seed planted in fertile soil, his questions grow in those who dare to ask. This legacy is not without challenge. Socrates' questions angered Athens, and yours may unsettle others. Yet, his life shows that truth endures. In Phaedo, his calm acceptance of death was his final lesson, a testament to a life lived fully. Your legacy, too, is built in how you live now. Ask, seek, connect, and your impact will outlive you, as Socrates did. Transition. As we conclude, let us weave Socrates' lessons, his questions, courage, and legacy into a final call to awaken our inner power. In a dim Athenian cell, the air heavy with a scent of stone and inevitability, Socrates lifts a cup of hemlock, his eyes steady, his heart at peace. The year is 399 BC, and the man who dared to question Athens' certainties now faces his final moment. "We owe a cock to Asclepius," he says, as recorded in Plato's Phaedo, a cryptic smile on his lips, as if death were a healing, a release from a world too small for his soul. The jury's verdict fades, the accusations dissolve, yet Socrates' voice endures, echoing across centuries. His trial was not his defeat but his triumph, a mirror held up to humanity, daring us to examine our lives. "The unexamined life is not worth living," he declared, and in that cell, he proved it, choosing truth over survival, virtue over fear. Socrates' wisdom is not a relic but a living flame. He taught us that ignorance is a seed of knowledge, that admitting "I know nothing" opens a door to wisdom. He showed that virtue is the soul's compass, guiding us through a world of fleeting desires. His fearless heart faced death with a smile, proving that courage is living truthfully, no matter the cost. Above all, he urged us to live examined lives, to question, to reflect, to seek purpose. From the Agora to his final breath, Socrates was a gadfly, stinging us awake, a lantern illuminating the path to authenticity. Today, his voice whispers to you. In a world of noise, where algorithms dictate beliefs and conformity tempts us to drift, Socrates calls you to pause. Ask, "Why do I believe this?" in your work, your relationships, your dreams. His legacy is not in books, but in the courage to question, the patience to listen, the purpose to live well. To honor Socrates is not to memorize his words, but to embody his spirit. Start today. Question one assumption. Make one virtuous choice. Face one fear. Each step awakens your inner power, the power to live not as the world demands, but as your soul desires. As you step back into the chaos of modern life, carry Socrates' lantern. Let his questions guide you, his courage embolden you, his legacy inspire you. The exam in life is not easy, but it is yours to claim. In the quiet of your heart, here's final challenge. Awaken your inner power and live a life that echoes through eternity. This was just one spark of wisdom, but there's so much more ahead. Join the journey. Subscribe to Socratic Spark and let philosophy guide your path to success.